Bonjour everyone and welcome back to my channel, The Waves of Your Soul. Today we're going to be doing a tarot and oracle reading where I will be pulling cards on the go and get intuitive messages all about the first impression that you make. So whether that is a conscious first impression or an unconscious first impression, what the vibe, what is the energy that you project when people meet you for the first time, when they don't know you, whether that is online or in real life. To be completely honest, I've been inspired to do this reading after watching the Circle TV show, which is on Netflix. It's a reality TV show where people can hide behind online personas and pretend to be different people than they are. If you're interested, you can watch it on Netflix. But after watching this TV show, I thought it was very interesting to do this kind of reading, to think about what is the impression that we project for people who never have met us, for people who don't know us. And so this is why I wanted to do this tarot reading today. If you've never been on my channel before, my name is Marine. I'm a French tarot reader and I'm a lover of all things tarot, oracle and self-empowerment related. So if you would like to see any more of those things on your timeline, as well as guidance, empowering tarot readings, content where I share tools that can help you on your spiritual journey, then make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the bell, all of that good stuff, because I upload every single week. If you don't know how pick a card reading works, in front of you, you're gonna find 4 different piles. Each pile contains a different message. All you have to do is to tune in to your intuition, to your inner knowing, to choose the pile that is calling out to you the most. In order to help you pick, I have chosen a crystal to go with each of the pile. So for pile number 1, we have this beautiful fluorite crystal. For pile number 2, we have ocean jasper. For pile number 3, I have clear quartz. And finally, for pile number 4, we have Gallena. All you have to do is connect to your intuition to decide which is the pile that is calling out to you the most. I will put in the description box below timestamps that can take you straight to your reading. If you're attracted to more than one pile, it is totally okay to listen to more than one. It might mean that there might be a message for you to listen to in both piles, and that might be a way for you to get a reading that is more tailored to you. On that note, I always like to say, whenever I do those type of readings, that they are for the collective, right? It's not a personal one-on-one reading, so please use your intuition, use your inner knowing to take what resonates with you and leave the rest. If the entirety of the reading doesn't resonate with you, it's okay, you can just keep for you what resonates with your soul. For anyone who likes to take a little bit more time to choose the pile that is calling out to them, I will insert a very quick 30-second meditation video where you can take some deep breaths, release any tension you might be holding on to, and tune in to the waves of your soul. You'll still see an image of the 4 piles to help you decide. Otherwise, for anyone else, you can head to the description box below to click on the timestamps of the pile to get to your reading, starting now. Okay, my pile number 1, welcome to your reading. So if you chose pile number 1, or if you chose this fluorite crystal right here, then this is going to be the reading for you. As I mentioned in the introduction, today we're going to be looking at the first impression that you make on people when they don't know you, and it's going to be really interesting. So I've got some oracle cards right here that I have not looked. I pull the cards, I don't look at them, and then if you've watched any of my readings before, you know that I also like to pull on the go intuitive messages, and we're going to be using the tarot for that just in a bit. But first, let's check out what the first 2 oracle cards that we have right here say. And those 2 cards are going to be representing the conscious impression, the conscious first impression that you make. So this is the first impression that you are aware of. The energy, the vibe, the image that you project onto society, onto people, that you know you're quite aware of. It's not something that should be a huge surprise to you. It might be that you don't know the totality of it, but this first impression is something that is a bit more conscious. It's the image that you're trying to, nurture and project. And so let's check those two. So we have Hermes, which is a Greek god of communication, you might know him as Mercury as well. He's the Greek god of communication, of travel, he's also a bit of a trickster energy, and we'll come back to that. And we also have the new moon in Sagittarius. So I actually wanted to work with Greek gods and mythology because I find they're really interesting archetypes to help us understand as human beings. So the archetypes that you got as a conscious impression you make, my pile number 1 is Hermes. So you might know him as Mercury. In Roman gods he was Mercury, in Greek mythology he was Hermes, and he represents an energy of someone who is very quick-witted, very intelligent, always has something to say, very interested in learning new things. So that already tells me a lot around the image that you project consciously. My pile number 1 is that you definitely project an energy of someone who's very active, who is very ready to explore, very spontaneous. We have the new moon in Sagittarius here, so some of you might be Sagittarius as your sun sign, moon sign, or rising sign. If not, you might have a lot of Sagittarius energy in your chart. We all have all of the 12 star signs in our chart anyway, but that energy might be more permanent for you in your particular birth chart. And so Sagittarius and Hermes is giving an energy of someone that is very spontaneous, that is ready to discover the world, that is ready to move, very active. You might be quite sporty, or you might be quite into traveling, or you might just be very active mentally. So you like to learn new things, you like to read a lot of books, you like to explore new cultures, you like to learn new languages, you like to try new foods. You're very, the image that you project is of someone that's very enthusiastic, very curious, ready to, explore the world. I sense quite an extroverted energy that you project. Now, internally, you might not feel like that. This is what we're going to be looking at. Of course, there's a difference between the image we're trying to project to the world and how we internally feel to the world, to your colleagues, to your friends, or to your dates you meet for the first time, people you meet for the first time, like trying to make new friends at school or at work. The image that you're trying to project firsthand is at least one of someone who's quite confident, and at least someone who's quite energetic, active, willing to learn, willing to explore. So Hermes is also Mercurian energy. So some of you might actually be Geminis, or that could be also a sign that is quite prominent in your birth chart. I'm getting strong Gemini energy, so people who are very quick-witted, who learn very fast, who are very great communicators. Maybe you're working in some kind of a job, or you're studying some kind of an area where you have to communicate very well, where you have to learn, be willing to go outside your comfort zone and be willing to connect, network. There's a sense here of a bit of a social butterfly, and already that's very interesting. So let's have a look. We'll pull some tarot cards, get a little bit more information on, see if there's anything other than any other conscious first impression that you're, nurturing as a person. And look, we have the Empress and we have the Daughter of Cups. Beautiful. So the Empress is definitely reinforcing the idea that for my pile number 1, the image you're trying to project to the world, the first impression you make onto people is one of someone who is feeling, in French we have this saying that feeling good in your shoes is saying you're feeling comfortable in your own skin. Again, that might not be how you feel internally, but at least that's the image you're trying to project. When people first meet you, they don't necessarily believe that you might have, anxiety, or that you might have areas where you feel low confidence, or where you might have, those feelings of self-doubt, etc. You're definitely nurturing an image of someone who's also very optimistic, and with the Empress card and the Daughter of Cups, there's a sense of a bit of a dreamer, someone who's not afraid of trying new things, and someone who's not really afraid of going beyond the status quo, of maybe being a little bit of especially Hermes and the Daughter of Cups. There might be a bit of a rebel energy, or not necessarily a rebel energy, but at least an idea of you feeling okay if you don't exactly fit in. Maybe the way you dress is a bit more unique, or maybe the job you do, or maybe your hobbies. And at least externally, it seems that people definitely find that unique, find that interesting. They find that actually very like charming and fascinating. The Empress card is a card that signifies that definitely catches people attention. They find you very captivating, very like, you know, you're like some kind of lighthouse that draws people in. And with the Daughter of Cups, we have also a sense of maybe you know, be a little bit more like spontaneous, childlike energy. So you know, you're always ready to have a laugh, or at least people feel like that they feel like with you you're not gonna be burdening them with your problems. Again, even if internally you might feel some type of way, you might not have the tendency to, you know, as soon as you meet someone, share your worry, share your problems. So they see you as someone who's quite, you know, enthusiastic, who's quite spontaneous, who's quite positive, and definitely someone who's very attractive and someone who's very fascinating. So that is at least the conscious impression that you make. So something you might be aware of that. Now we really want to have a look at the unconscious impression. So what is the vibe, the energy that you unconsciously give to people the very first time they meet you? Because that is really the most interesting thing. I think sometimes it can surprise us between the image we're trying to project and the image we project not really, you know, consciously. I think that's definitely something that is interesting. So let's have a look. First, we're gonna be checking those two oracle cards right here, and we're gonna see, so first impression, the unconscious vibe energy that you give to people when they first meet you. And we have dreams and mystery. Beautiful. So mystery and dream. So unconsciously, this is very interesting. Unconsciously, you don't wear your heart on your sleeves, right? There's a sense of mystery with you. There's a sense of, even though you're very giving an impression of someone who's very spontaneous, very active, who's very willing to learn new things, to do things, very, you know, like we talked about this Mercury energy, Sagittarius energy, Daughter of Cups energy, there is still a sense of mystery there. Like people find you very intriguing. When people first meet you, they don't necessarily know all the depths of you, and they can sense that you have more to you than just first appearances. They can sense that you have many layers. And this is very interesting because we had the Daughter of Cups with like childlike, you know, spontaneity, childlike curiosity, childlike energy, and that might be something that you feel that you're projecting consciously, but actually unconsciously, you give the image of someone, or the first impression of someone who has an old soul. Maybe that's something you don't realize people are picking up on, but when they meet you, they realize that you have a lot more depth than other people. The reason why maybe you're so willing to learn new things is because you've accumulated a lot of wisdom, and people can pick up on that. I think they can pick up that potentially, like I said, you are all souls. That might be not your first time around on this earth. If you believe in reincarnation, then maybe you know, you've definitely, it's like I said, not your first time reincarnating, so that might be why people are picking up on that. Maybe some people, and the first impression that you give is that maybe unconsciously people find you wiser than your years. Like you might tell people your age and they don't believe, you know, from the way you're speaking, and from the way, not from the way you're looking, but from the way you're speaking, how you're communicating, how you're behaving, you might act a lot more, you might sound a lot older, or you might sound a lot more wise than your years. And that's purely because you have more depth to you, my pile number one, and that's very interesting. We also have the dreams card here, so that might you know, reinforce the idea that the first impression that people that meet you, they can sense that you have a big imagination, that you think outside the box. Again, I'm still getting this strong idea that you might not dress like everyone else, you might not have the same haircut, or you might be interested in different things. So maybe even just the way you speak, the way you behave, it's just like a bit more unique, and it's definitely quite, even though it's unique, I can sense it's quite cool, right? Some of you might be very fashionable, you might be very into, you know, there's this idea of people being attracted to you because they sense that you are cool, you're original, you're quirky, you're unique. We did have the Empress card saying that people are attracted to you by your natural ability to be like beautiful in your own way, to be feeling good in your own skin. Whether you realize that or not, people are naturally attracted to you by your style, by like how you project. There's a sense here of your aura, etc., being your quirky, original in a good way. Like I'm saying that it's a good thing. So let's pull some tarot cards to get a little bit more information on the unconscious first impression you make on people when people first meet you. Wow, we have the Ace of Swords. Whoops. We have two cards that turned. We have the Seven of Pentacles and we have the Seven of Wands. Two sevens. Okay, that's really cool. So Ace of Swords, for people who might have recognized this, if you've seen Vikings, you might recognize the main character, Ragnar Lothbrok. He's representing of the Ace of Swords in this particular deck. And by the way, I leave all of the name of my decks in the description box below usually. So Ragnar Lothbrok is our Ace of Swords. So here, first, in terms of the first impression you unconsciously make with the Ace of Swords is like you appear as someone who's very intelligent. Paired with Hermes, Mercury, again, it goes into quick-witted. You might be have a very like sarcastic, dry sense of humor, but that is very quick-witted. Like, you just have, people can bounce off you, people don't, like, they can tell you something and you're gonna pick it up straight away, you're gonna make people laugh. You have this sense very much of being able to you're not like a wallflower type of energy. Like, people will remember you when they go to a party and they first meet you. They're gonna remember you because straight away you're gonna have the good chat, straight away you're gonna be having interesting subjects of conversation. It really relies on, with the Ace of Swords, it relies on our ability to communicate. So you're a great communicator whether you realize or not. You make a great first impression how you communicate. So again, maybe you're very funny, maybe you just have a very interesting life or topics of subjects that you can talk about. Maybe you're just also a great listener and people feel at ease with you because you have an ability to listen and ask the right questions. But with this Ace of Swords and paired with like this Mercury Hermes energy, it definitely reinforces the idea that your communication skills are what people remember you by. You had good chat, you had good banter, you know what I mean? So unconsciously, because you kind of give off this cool vibe, remember earlier I said some of you I feel like you're different, quirky, but very cool. That might make people feel a little bit intimidated to approach you. Maybe they think you're a bit guarded. Again, that might not be conscious. Maybe internally you feel like you are very accessible, very approachable, but in terms of first impression, the energy you project unconsciously, there might be some, a sense here of being a bit guarded. Maybe people are a little bit intimidated by you, especially getting here a sense for work. So some of you, when you're at work and your teammates, your colleagues first meet you, they might be a little bit intimidated because maybe you give off the energy of someone who knows a lot, very wise, very intelligent, like I said, great communication skills. Like I said, potentially you have, maybe some of you speak different languages, maybe some of you have, diplomas, maybe some of you have just life experiences that make you stand out from the crowd, and that might make people feel a little bit intimidated. In terms of romantic relationship, maybe that is also something that so people might feel like they're not good enough for you. When they first meet you, they think, this person is very guarded, this person is like a bit like not standoffish or cold, but just like a bit unattainable. There's this sense here with like the Seven of Pentacles and the Seven of Wands that people might just feel like they're almost not worthy, which is a very unusual energy. But because we have the Empress card and the Seven of Pentacles and this Ace of Swords here, I can sense that you truly are unique, my pal number one, and so you just stand out, and that can make people feel a little bit insecure, that can make people feel a little bit uneasy, especially if you're meeting someone for the first time who is not as unapologetic as you, who is feeling more uncomfortable, more less capable of shining their true colors. You might be a little bit of sandpaper to their traumas or to their wounds because of the way you shine so bright. Sometimes when you shine so bright, people don't like that and they can tend to feel a little bit, you know, some type of way, and so that's something to be aware of. I'm sensing that this is a specific message. It's not going to resonate for everyone, but some of you have a tendency to be a mirror, whether you realize or not, to show other people what they don't like about themselves by you embodying all your beautiful parts, all your uniqueness. That in turn shows other people their inability to do so, and that might actually rub them the wrong way. So if you're feeling some type of unease in social situations, sometimes that might be why, and that's not something you can control, and that's not something for you to worry about. You live your life, you shine your light, and people will accept that, or if not, then they're not the people that are meant to be in your life anyway. So now we're gonna pull 2 more cards, because I said in the introduction of my video that I was inspired to do this spread after watching The Circle, which is all about people being able to pretend that they're somebody else online. I thought it would be fun to pull 2 more cards to see what is the first impression you make online versus the first impression you make offline in real life. So for example, there we go. So for online we have death, okay? And we have reflection. So online, we're talking about here about all the social media, the first impression you make when people go and check your Instagram, when they go and dating profiles, TikTok, and LinkedIn profiles, and all of the stuff where people don't actually meet you in person. The first impression you make, we have death and reflections. Again, I sense this idea with you that maybe because you shine so bright, because you're unique, different, whether you realize that or not, that might make people feel a bit jealous. That might make people feel a certain type of way, like I said, that might be a bit of sandpaper to people's wounds. And again, that's not something for you to be worried about. You can't control other people's reaction, you only control yourself. But some people might be a little bit jealous, some people might be a bit like they just project certain things onto you that are not necessarily true. With the reflection card, we do have the idea here, again, of this mirror. You see how it looks like a total mirror, like those vanity mirrors? So that's very, very interesting. Kind of reinforces the message we were talking about. People can see in you, this is what I'm getting. People can see in you, at least online, on the first impression they get from your profile, etc. They see what they wished they saw in their own life, whether that is because you've done certain degrees, because that is you look a certain way, maybe because you have certain type of friends, maybe because you lead a certain lifestyle, maybe because of a certain style you have, maybe because of a certain school you went to or a certain job you have, depending on the online profile that they're looking at. Because they're seeing things in you that they wish they had, it is definitely acting as a mirror. But because we had the Empress, remember that this, regardless of that, they will eventually be anyway attracted to you. Generally, the Empress is a very attractive energy. It's an energy of abundance. It's an energy of, embodying one's truth, embodying one's beauty. So you don't have to really worry too much about their opinion of yourself. Just live your truth, be your true self. You're gonna attract the right soul tribe regardless, my pal number 1. Let's have a look at the first impression a little bit more. First impression you make in real life. So whether that is, you go to new class for the first time, new yoga group, or you go to meet a date, like blind date or anything like that. We have growth. Okay, so very nurturing energy. So in real life, suddenly people find you very nurturing, very easygoing, maybe a little bit more grounded. So that's very positive. That kind of like projection that they had of you offline kind of disappears. And happiness. So people find you generally positive, happy, smiley. It kind of goes back to this Daughter of Cup energy, Hermes energy. It goes back to what we said about people definitely feel like you're positive, you're outgoing, you're energetic, you are giving the vibe of someone who's going to be optimistic, who wants to live life to the fullest, and who's generally a happy person, and that's beautiful. So My pile number 1, this is all I'm seeing for you today. I hope you enjoyed this little reading. It was fun, light-hearted, but hopefully you still enjoyed it. If you did, don't hesitate to give my video a thumbs up, as it really helps my channel to grow and it's a nice exchange of energy. Until next time, until my next video, as per usual, I am sending you lots and lots of good vibes, and keep navigating the waves of your soul. Bye! Okay, my pile number 2, welcome to your reading. So if you chose pile number 2, or this ocean jasper crystal right here, then this is gonna be the reading for you. As I mentioned in the introduction of this video, reading all about the first impressions that people have when they first meet you. So when people don't know you and they first meet you, whether that is in real life or online, what is the impression that you make, what is the vibe that you give off, what is the energy that you give off. And first of all, we're gonna be checking some oracle cards. So I have not actually looked at them, I pull the cards, I don't look at them. But then if you watched any of my previous pick a card readings, then you know that I like to pull tarot cards on the go as well to get intuitive messages. So we're still going to be doing that in a sec, but first we're going to be checking out those oracle cards. Those two we'll be looking at later, but first we're going to be checking the conscious first impression you make. So this is something that, you know, you should be a little bit more aware of. Maybe it's an energy or an image that you've been nurturing for a while, so it shouldn't be too much of a surprise that is the first impression that you make to people, because that is the energy that consciously you're trying to nurture. Deep down, it might not be how you're feeling, because sometimes the image that we project to the society is very different to how we feel internally. But you know, in terms of consciously projecting, this should not be a huge surprise. I'm actually using Greek mythology archetypes, so I thought it would be very interesting to use those archetypes of gods and goddesses to help us understand a little bit more about your personality, or a little bit more about your archetype, your vibe. So we're going to be checking that first, and we also have a moon card right here, so let's have a look. So we have the new moon, dark new moon, beautiful, and we have Zeus as a god, beautiful. So if you don't know Greek mythology, Zeus is someone, he's like the god of gods. Wow. So you know, that with the new moon is like a power combo. Let me bring him closer. So in Greek mythology, Zeus is, you know, the god of all gods. He is like, you know, he rules, he's the boss, he's the CEO. And you might know him as Jupiter in Roman mythology, but in Greek mythology it is Zeus. So, you know, he is the CEO, he is the father of all the of a lot of other gods. He rules with his wife Hera, and he is just the boss. He decides what's going on. He won over all the other gods to rule in Olympus, which is like the presidential palace. So he is like the boss, right? He controls everything, he sees everything with his ego. That paired with the new moon is giving me a very strong leadership vibe from my pile number 2. This might be an image that you, again, this is a conscious impression you make. So it shouldn't be a huge surprise, although sometimes, you know, even if it's conscious, sometimes we don't realize the extent of it. But consciously you might be trying to nurture, and that's definitely what people are picking on when they first meet you. Energy of someone who's quite confident in themselves, energy of someone who is quite assured, and who knows what they're doing, right? We're getting CEO vibes, we're getting leadership vibes. So with this card, I'm getting strong Aries energy, I'm getting Capricorn energy, and I'm getting Taurus energy. So you might have those signs very prominent in your birth chart, as well as Leo. So Leo, Capricorn, Taurus and Aries. I don't know why this is what's coming up right now. You might have those signs very prominent, sun, moon or rising, or a lot of that energy in your chart. But we have the energy of someone who's not afraid of being in the center stage, who's not afraid to speak up, who's not afraid to do public talking, who can lead, who can manage a team. So when people first meet you, they feel very at ease and comfortable because they feel like you're going to be in charge. They feel like they can relax with you because you're going to take the lead. Whether you are, you know, regardless of your gender, they get that very strong leader energy of like, I'm gonna take charge, I'm gonna be taken care of, I'm gonna be like, this person knows what they're doing, and so I feel like I can chill because with them I feel confident enough that shit is gonna get done. You know what I mean? So at work it might be especially something that you notice, that when people first meet you, they feel very like, you know, they can have confidence in you, they can like give you projects, they can easily give you tasks, etc., because you give the energy of someone who knows what they're doing. When you first meet dates, when you're like, for example, if you're looking for a romantic partner, people might straight away feel like you're very confident, you know what you're doing, all of those things. Again, that might not be how you feel inside, but in terms of the first impression that you make, we get, you know, that strong CEO, leader, team leader, trailblazer, doing, if like there's something to be done for the first time, you might be the person that does it, and you know, regardless of what other people think. You have no problems getting your hands dirty, you have no problems getting the work done, and you definitely give off the impression of someone who is assured, who is confident, who knows where they're going. You know, I'm getting again strong emperor energy as well, so someone who's quite stable, who will be there, not flaky, right? Your first impression to give is that people, the first impression you give to people is definitely not someone who's going to be flaking on them. That's also great. And with this new moon here, you get also this first impression to people that with you anything is possible. Like, there, even though you're going to be very grounded and secure and stable, there's a sense of not being boring and of always willing to try new things and things being exciting around you, which is very a great asset to have as well. Beautiful. So let's pull some tarot cards to have a little bit more information around the conscious first impression you make. So, you know, when people first meet you, whether that is when you go to a party and you meet new people, or at work or whatever. Let's see what we can get. Look, we have the moon, beautiful. So, and the ace of swords. Okay, so there's definitely a sense of charisma, of like authority and charisma that you project. And with this ace of swords, being very intelligent and being a great communicator, being very able to communicate how you feel, to share your ideas, and to win over a debate. Like, if you meet someone for the first time and there's like, you know, one of those heated conversation going on, you know, those typical like politics or those kind of subjects that usually people either will avoid or that it'll just create awkwardness or whatever around the table. If you're meeting people for the first time at a dinner or something like that, well, regardless of what the subject of the conversation is, you have always something intelligent to say, and two, you will win over people because you have a very strong influencer vibe. With this moon card here, there's a sense of intuitively knowing when to speak and when to shut up, and intuitively knowing what to say and what not to say, and that is definitely winning people over to you, my pile number 2. Whether you're aware of this or not, the first impression you make is definitely one of someone who is, like I said, you're a leader. You have this, where people are drawn to your charisma and to the way that you can express yourself, to the way that you can win people over. It is this idea of like campaigning. Whether you want to campaign or not, you're still gonna get people to vote for you because you have this natural ease, this natural ability to get people to side with you. Not from manipulation or anything like that, but just from being inherently good at communicating, from having great ideas, from being in tune with your intuition. So now we're going to be checking my favorite part, which is going to be the unconscious first impression that you make. So what is the vibes, the energies that unconsciously you give off to people when they meet you for the first time? And for that, we're going to be checking first those two oracle cards. And we have Epiphany and Meander. Okay, that's very interesting. So I'm getting a very like Hierophant kind of energy. I don't know if you don't know, in tarot, Hierophant energy is one of a mentor, a guide, a teacher, someone who can, you know, it's very similar to this juice and leader vibe, but it's more spiritual. So here I'm getting the energy of not only someone who is like a boss, a leader, independent, confident, can rally people with them, but also someone who is very spiritually in tune and who can be not just a leader but also a mentor. Like, there's a sense of being a great teacher to life, of being connected to the universe, and of allowing people to learn by you living your life, by you embodying who you are. You are helping other people come into the best version of themselves. So maybe that's something that you naturally do, maybe by having the right word, because with this Ace of Swords I'm getting a strong sense that for my pile number 2, you know what to say and when to say it. You have the right timing and you can be a great listener when it is necessary, and that is a huge asset. Here there's a sense of, by you just being yourself, listening to people, being there and just asking the right question, suddenly already they feel a sense of peace, they feel a sense of ease, and you're being some kind of a teacher, like, in terms of spiritually helping people evolve on their journey, their life path. We have this meander card here, which is very like life path energy. So that is very, very interesting. Let's pull some tarot cards to explore, because I'm curious to see. This epiphany card is giving me very strong, like I said, spiritual guru, spiritual mentor, spiritual teacher vibe. So that's very unique in terms of first impression, right? Because we're already going quite deep. So let's pull some tarot cards to find out a little bit more. For my pile number 2, the unconscious impression that you make when people first meet you. See, we have the Wheel of Fortune. Wow. We have the 2 of Pentacles. And let's pull one more. We have Strength. Okay. Unconsciously, you project this idea that with you, everything is possible. Charismatic still with this Wheel of Fortune. But also with this Strength card, a sense of, it's not, when we speak of strength, we're not saying like someone who is physically strong. So I'm not saying like when people first meet you, they notice that you go to the gym, because, we're going deeper than that. They just notice that you are very internally secure. And again, that might not be something that you realize you're giving off, but your aura, your energy is very soothing to the world. It is very secure and very soothing. With you, people can let their guard down. This is what I'm getting with this 2 of Pentacles, Strength, and Wheel of Fortune. With you, my pile number 2, people can let their guard down. You might realize that when people first meet you, they start to talk to you, and this is why this is what this epiphany card is all about. When people first meet you, you might realize, my pile number 2, that suddenly, very quickly, they will pour their heart and soul over you. They will open themselves very quickly to you. You go to get your hair cut, and suddenly the hairdresser starts to talk about their personal life, personal issues. They open themselves up to you. You go to take the bus, and the person next to you on the bus is suddenly going to start very quickly speaking to you and being very vulnerable with you and being very open. And people feel so comfortable with you that they open up very easily, because they feel like they're not going to get judged. And they feel like you give off the energy of, like I said, spiritual teacher, spiritual master, epiphany. So being able to be there for others, having the right word to say, just being generally secure, kind. That's giving off an energy of someone who's very charismatic, but also very relatable, very reliable and relatable. And that happens not with everyone, right? There's a lot of people who can be very guarded, but that's not your case. I feel like with you, people can relate to you in a way that is very unique, and that is why they are naturally attracted to you, my pile number 2, because they feel like they can trust you. I talked about stability, I talked about structure, about being grounded, all of those things, and this is why I feel like people can very much relate. With this 2 of Pentacles, again, is very rooted, is very Taurus energy, very Capricorn energy. That is beautiful. That's definitely an energy you want to continue nourishing, because you don't want to make people feel on edge, right? That's not a nice energy to be. You don't want, it's not necessarily nice to make people feel guarded, to make people feel insecure, to make people feel on edge. That's definitely not your case anyway, my pile number 2, so that's something you can be very proud of and celebrate. So, like I said in my introduction, I kind of got inspired to do this reading after watching the Circle TV show, which is a reality TV show like where people can pretend to be people they're not by creating fake online profiles, etc. And they can convince people that they're someone that they're not. And so I thought it was interesting to pull a couple of cards today to kind of wrap up the reading around figuring out what is the first impression you make online versus the first impression you make offline, because we live so much of our life now online, right? We have LinkedIn profiles for our jobs, we have Instagrams and TikToks where we share our personal life, and then we have dating profiles, and then we have just so many online personas, and that's quite different to when you meet someone in real life, because they're just 2 completely different things. So let's have a look first at the first impression you make online. So when people check your socials, etc., what is the vibe they get from you? What is the first impression they get of you? Hunger. Okay, so you're definitely Giving off the idea of someone who's a go-getter. Maybe you have your own business, maybe you have your own side hustle, maybe you just have your own sports team, or you know, something that is yours. You have your own family or whatever that you share about your own home, or something that is like you've created that. It's like you've been the CEO of something, you've birthed something into the world, and now you're the boss of that, and people can sense that very self-entrepreneur shape. Someone who's going to be able to go after what they want, who's going to be able to manifest, who's going to be able to be abundant. We're talking here material wealth and all of that. That could be something that people first notice about you, even though personally, even though you might not be a millionaire, people notice that, you know, when you want something, you go and get it. That's very interesting. Let's see online again if there's anything else that wants to come through. We have caution, okay? The image that you project online doesn't quite match who you are. And that might not be something that you are aware of, but people might get the wrong idea of you before they meet you in person. They might get the wrong impression. Like, they might think you're very superficial and shallow because they might notice the material wealth first, or the way you dress, or the way you behave, or any of those things. Whereas once they meet you, they suddenly realize a lot more about your depths, your, you know, leadership and your charisma and all of those things. But with this caution card here for online, I can sense that potentially online people get not quite the right impression of who you are. There might be here a sense, also I'm getting a message that's quite particular. Don't necessarily trust what people, you know, everyone that you meet online. This is a very specific message that is not going to apply to everyone, but it's coming through that for some of you, you're meeting people online, etc. Don't necessarily trust that they are 100% themselves. Some of them might be not fully honest. So keep a bit of your guard up until you meet them. Don't share all your cards. Keep some of them close to your heart. This is a specific message, but it's coming through, so you know, I'm sharing it. Okay, so let's continue now. We'll share the real life first impression when people first meet you. Intuition, see? Intuition and space. So intuition, again, we get this epiphany, spiritual talk that I mentioned earlier, whereas people, when they first meet you, they intuitively feel at ease. And they also sense that you are a very intuitive person, that you go on your instinct. You don't feel like you're someone who's calculated, who's manipulative, who, you know, thinks a ton before they speak. There's a sense here of being inherently charismatic, inherently themselves, and inherently intuitive, and that's a very great quality. With the space card, for me it goes back to this idea of being a good listener. When people first meet you, they might be surprised by your ability to listen and not wanting to impose, because honestly nowadays it's such a quality to be able to listen to other people. You'd be surprised when you think about the amount of people that, you know, when they first meet others, all they want to do is just talk about themselves. It's quite rare for people to be good listeners and for people to be as interested about others as they are with themselves. And I feel like that's something that people pick up with you, is that you're willing to ask questions, you're willing to be interested, you're curious about others, because you know that by learning about other people, it's helping you to learn about yourself. And again, that's a great quality right there that you need to be very proud of. Beautiful. This is what I'm seeing for you, my pile number 2. I really hope you liked this fun, light-hearted reading. If you did, then don't hesitate to give my video a thumbs up. It really helps my channel to grow, and it's a nice exchange of energy. And if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, I invite you to do so. I post regular pick a card readings, I post tarot and oracle related videos, and it would really make my day if you decide to join the Waves of Your Soul community. And until my next video, as per usual, I am sending you so much good vibes, and keep navigating the waves of your soul. Bye! Okay, my pile number 3, welcome to your reading. So if you chose the clear quartz or pile number 3, then this is going to be the reading for you. As I mentioned in the introduction of today's video, we're doing a reading all about finding out people's first impression of you. So when you meet people for the first time, whether that is online or in real life, whether it is at work or at school or in a social event or, you know, dating or whatever the circumstances are, what are the first impressions that people have of you? And to do that, we're going to be exploring oracle cards. I've pulled them, I've not looked at them yet, and we're also going to be pulling some tarot cards on the go to get intuitive messages for you. So first off, I want to check the oracle cards. The first two, I've not seen them, are going to represent the conscious first impression you make. So this might not be so much of a surprise because it could be the image that you are trying to project anyway. This is the image that you're trying to nurture. You know, it might not be so much of a surprise as when we kind of look at the unconscious first impression you make, but those two cards represent kind of like the first impression people get that comes from you consciously choosing to nurture a certain energy, nurture a certain image, project a certain image to the world, to the society. So for that we have two cards. I have a moon card and a card representing a Greek god or goddess. I find they're very great archetypes. They're very great to help us understand personality and people's human psyche, etc. So I wanted to work with that today. So let's have a look. Okay, we have Artemis. Oh, beautiful, one of my favorites. And we have the blue moon. Wow. Okay, my pile number 3. My pile number 3 are definitely the rebels. You are the people that don't fit in boxes. You are the wanderers, the explorers, the wild ones, the ones who are not willing to fit in, the ones who are not willing to be told what to do. That's very beautiful. So let's go back to the beginning. The blue moon, you know that saying, it happens once in a blue moon, is because blue moons are quite rare events. And so this card already represents the idea that consciously the first impression you make is the image of someone who is very unique, who's very different, who's very quirky, but in a good way. This is all good, right? So maybe you dress differently than others. Maybe you have a very quirky, unique fashion sense. Maybe some of you, it's a very specific message, but some of you might actually dress kind of like retro, like you dress like using vintage clothes, you know, very niche 1920s or very niche 1960s or whatever it is. Some of you might be very fashionable the way you dress, the music you listen to, how you project yourself into the world. This is specific, but it's coming through some sharing. Regardless of how you dress, there's a sense here that the aura, the energy you give off is of someone who is unique, who's a little bit of a rebel, not in a bad way, but of like, you're not plain Jane, you're not like girl next door or boy next door kind of vibe. When people first meet you, they realize that there's a lot more to you than, you know, your average Jane Doe, and that there's definitely, you have quirks, you're unique, you're different, and that's beautiful. With Artemis as a Greek goddess archetype, she's one of my favorite goddesses, you know, in the world. And she represents the wild one. She was the goddess of nature, of animals, of the hunt. She like never had, you know, she was never married. She was very independent. She lived in the woods with her friends, and she had men when she wanted, she had women when she wanted, and she did her life regardless of what other people thought. She was just like the independent badass, you know, all of that thing. She was also representative of the goddess of the moon, and we have a moon here, so that's very interesting. So regardless of how you identify of your gender, this goddess energy can be found in you. Like I said, there's a sense here of the first impression people get when they meet you, and that's something that you might have nurtured. So that might be an image you're projecting, is you're just different. And so because we're talking about first impression, again, it could be about your fashion sense, it could be about the kind of car you drive, it could be about the kind of job you do, it could be about how you are just physically, how you project, how you behave. You don't fit in, and that's a good thing, you know. It's definitely something that is celebrated here and something you should be proud of, because you don't want to be boring. You don't want to be like everyone else, and with you there's definitely a particular sense that you shine out, you shine differently, you vibe differently, my pile number 3. So we're gonna be exploring other cards and finding out a bit more, but already I can tell you that you don't vibe the same way as all my other piles, and that's super cool. So let's have a look. We're gonna pull some tarot cards, get a little bit more information, see what comes through for the conscious first impression that you make. So okay, Ace of Pentacles and the Chariot. Wow, okay, so you're definitely independent, like people can't tell you what to do or at least that's the image that you project to the world, is that people find that you are very independent. You can do things on your own. Like, you might not be the kind of person that needs a relationship to live. Like, even if you're single, you're still gonna go out there and live your best life. And of course, it doesn't mean that you don't want a relationship eventually. Maybe you do, but while you're single, you're not gonna be the type of person who, like, you know, doesn't go and enjoy their life and go after their passion and build their career or whatever it is that you want to do. With the Chariot and the Ace of Pentacles, there's also an idea of being very great at starting new thing. You're innovator, my pile number 3, so you think differently than others. Some of you might be neurodivergent, like you have different, you know, your brain works differently. And again, that's not something that you should be ashamed of. It's something that you need to celebrate, because people can pick up on that, but it's an asset. It's like what makes you stand out, what makes you shine, right? The Ace of Pentacles is always a gift. Aces are gifts. It's the first card of the suit, and so with the Pentacles here, paired with the Chariot, is like it's one of your greatest assets. The, you know, that kind of the what makes you different. It could also be that physically, you know, you might not look like everyone else. You might have a disability that makes you stand out, that makes you look different than other people. Again, this is something to be celebrated because it's what makes you stand apart, and it's part of your strengths. The Blue Moon is the card of, like, when Blue Moon happens, it's literally a miracle. It's something that is so unique, so beautiful, so, you know, out of the ordinary, that we can only be in awe of it. Paired with Artemis, the Chariot, and Ace of Pentacles, the first impression you make is that regardless of what people see first, they just know that beyond this difference, you have a very unique character. You're very different, but in a good way. You're interesting, you're vibrant. Like I said, you vibe different, my pile number 3, whether it's because you have some kind of a genius about you, like the way you think is very innovative, it's very new, it's spontaneous, you go outside the norm, you think outside the box, you just have this natural ability. Straight away when people meet you, they know that you don't walk the main road, you take the offbeat path in life, and that is what makes people feel like, wow, this person is so different. Like, it really impresses others, whether you realize that or not. So let's have a look now at the unconscious first impression that you give off, my pile number 3. So this is the vibe, the energy that you unconsciously give off to people when they first meet you. Let's have a look. We have the Cosmos and we have the Retreat. Okay, that's very interesting. So unconsciously, people might be a little bit intimidated by you because you're so unique, you're so different. It's almost like you come from a different planet, my pile number 3, that people feel like they don't really know sometimes how to approach, because they feel a little bit intimidated, because they might, and whether you realize or not, put you on a pedestal. Maybe they think you're more intelligent than them, maybe they think you're more beautiful than them, maybe they think you're more charismatic than them, maybe they feel boring next to you because you're so different, you have so many great subjects of conversation, you have some really cool hobbies, you dress really cool, you just have really great conversation topics, you're very intelligent, whatever it is. There's a sense that people potentially put you a bit on a pedestal and just feel a little bit intimidated, and you might not even realize that because this is unconscious first impression. But this is like why we have the Retreat, is that there's a bit of a distance here potentially. And you know, remember, Artemis, she was very independent. She didn't need nobody to live her best life. So you're very happy on your own, and people can sense that. And so this is why there might be a bit of a distance here. So with the Cosmos card here, there's definitely a sense that, you know, it goes back to the Blue Moon, but it also goes back to this idea of, remember I said you vibing differently? It could be that people notice straight away when they first meet you that maybe some of you are interested into spiritual things. They might notice that you're very linked to the cosmos, your intuition is on fire, your aura just has this, very deep connection to the universe at large. So you might be very intuitive, you might have clairs, very open, you might even be empath, some of you, and this is something that makes you very connected to the universe, to your intuition, to the divine, to spirit. That might be a part of you that people when they first meet you, they notice that, you know, you stand out that way, because you might be into esoteric things, you might be just very spiritual person and just very deeply connected to the universe, but that it does put you a little bit on some kind of pedestal or some kind of a different path. Like, it also adds to the layer of you being different, and that's something that people can pick up as well when they first meet you. So let's pull some tarot cards now to find out a little bit more about the first impressions you make unconsciously, and see what comes up for you. My pile number 3. We have the Two of Swords. We have the Boss of Swords, so Knight of Swords, the equivalent of Knight of Swords, which is 2 pack in this deck. And we have the Queen of Cups. Wow, okay, so, yep, this is my pile of empaths. This is my pile of intuitive, gifted, you know, I don't like to use the word gifted, I believe we're all gifted, but more in tune with your gift, I will say, and people can pick that up, and that might be why there's some of you that feel like you don't connect sometimes. Some of you might feel like sometimes people, when you first meet them, they, you know, don't really warm straight away to you, or maybe they are you have some trouble fitting in sometimes. Maybe you feel like people don't welcome you always, or that it's hard for you to fit in at parties or finding your soul tribe, etc. The reason why is that people can sense that you are on a higher vibration than them, and so you will find your soul tribe, you will find the right people for you, but you're not meant to get on with everyone. My pile number 3, you're meant, like I said, you're different, you are like different individuals, and so that's why sometimes people either put you on a pedestal, or you feel a little bit isolated, or it's hard for you to fit in and mingle because you're not meant to. With this Queen of Cups, you can definitely people feel like you can read them because I can sense that this is my empath pile, so you might be able to, and you know, paired with the Knight of Swords especially, I feel like it's very easy for you to read others, and so sometimes that makes other people feel uncomfortable because you can literally, your bullshit radar is like so on point, and you can read people, you can read a room, you can read an energy. When you go in a room, you know exactly what's the vibe, and that is harder for people around you to pretend to be people they're not, because you'll be able to sense that straight away, and that makes people feel uncomfortable because they feel like with you they're an open book, and people don't like to be open books, people don't like to be vulnerable, and so that might be something that, you know, kind of rubs some people the wrong way, but that's not something for you to worry about. You can't control how people feel, you can only control your reaction, but definitely people sense that you have you're very intuitive, you're very quick-witted as well. That's something that maybe you don't realize, but people find about you when they first meet you, is that you always know what to say when. You're very quick-witted, maybe you're very funny. Some of you also don't realize that you have a great sense of humor, but that's something that people notice when they first meet you. And with this Queen of Cups here, we also have the idea that the people who are meant to be with you, the people who are meant to vibe the same vibration as you, the people who are meant to join your soul tribe, are, really gonna be looking at you as some kind of, we have the fairy godmother here, so the right people, when they will meet you for the first time, they will see in you not just the intuitive person, the independent person, the different, unique person. They'll also see the very caring, very heart-centered person. You're very sensitive, my pile number 3, whether you realize that or not, and that's something that the right people will be able to pick up on and will appreciate. They will appreciate that with you they can talk heart to heart. They will appreciate that with you you can open your heart. Queen of Cups, she's the queen of our emotions, so with you, people, the right people can open themselves, they can you can have deep talks about your emotions, and there's a very strong, caring, sensitive side to you that is very sweet, that is very moving, that is very nurturing, and that the right people will appreciate for sure. And that's something that the right people will notice when they first meet you, is how empathetic, how caring, and how beautiful your soul is. Okay, so remember in the introduction of my video I said that I was inspired to do this reading after watching The Circle, which is a reality TV show where people can pretend to be people they're not by creating fake online profiles, etc. It inspired me for this reading. I thought it was very interesting in terms of like, study of like the human psyche and stuff. I wanted to go a little bit deeper with this reading and check what is the first impression you make online and what is the first impression you make offline, because much of our reality now is spent online. When people first meet you now, a lot of the time the first thing they see is not us, but it's our Instagram, our LinkedIn, our TikTok, our Facebook profile, our dating profile, whatever it is. That's usually the first thing that people will meet nowadays, unfortunately. So I thought it would be interesting to see what's your online first impression. So we have illumination. Okay, so you definitely again shine differently. And surrender. Okay, so there is a sense here of being very spiritually linked, of being very linked to the cosmos, to the universe, and of really standing out from the crowd through your spirituality. Like I said, some of you, that might be the image as well, that when people first see your socials, they notice that you might be into cards, or you might be into astrology, or you might be into meditation or yoga or any of those things. That might be the first thing that people notice. And I do feel like your online persona very much matches your in real life persona, my pile number 3. For some of my other piles, it could feel that the image that they project online didn't quite match the impression that people would get if they met you in real life. But for you, my pile number 3, I can feel like when people meet you in real life versus when they meet you online, they get the same. It's like it's not a huge surprise. You are who you are, and you're not trying to be anyone else. And I feel like that translates in your online profiles, etc. So that's great. Let's see now your in real life first impression. Like when people meet you in real life, what can we get else? Rest. Okay. So with this green card, for me, I'm getting very like grounded as well. So some of you might be very grounded people, like you spend a lot of time in nature, so you are naturally, or you just have this very much. We had the cosmos, so linked to the universe, but also linked to the earth. And so that might be something that people notice, is that a sense of calm as well with this rest card, with this grounded nature. There might be a sense of very soothing aura, very soothing energy. You're not manic. You're not giving off a manic energy. I have another pile, I won't tell you which one, where it was like very Mercurian, quick-witted communication, Hermes energy, and it's like, social butterfly, like going like 110 miles per hour. You, as my pile number 3, it's very different. You're giving off a very calm first impression, like someone who's very grounded, who's very in connection with himself, in connection with nature, someone who's not running here, there, and everywhere. And that's a very like, appeasing aura to have. It makes people feel at ease, because you're not going to make people feel anxious. Your vibe isn't making people feel anxious. And we have determination. So that might be something that you don't realize, that when people first meet you, the first thing they notice is your ability to get stuff done, your ability to move forward, your ability to accomplish great things, to climb mountains, maybe in your job interviews or anything like that. It could be something that you can play on, because actually people, they first notice when they first meet you, they realize that you're a hard worker. I did pick up that with the Ace of Pentacles, but I think I didn't mention it, so now it's the time to mention it, that some of you, definitely, I'm getting Capricorn vibe from those two, Capricorn and Virgo energy. So you might have a lot of Capricorn or a lot of Virgo in your birth chart, whether your sun, moon, rising sign, or even just generally, that might be the vibe. And so you're giving off both an, first impression aura vibe of someone who's grounded, calm, but knows what they're doing. You're very stable, you're very grounded, you know where you're going, and you're like a rock in the midst of the ocean. The waves can keep crashing on you, you're not gonna move. And that's something that is people find very interesting and very fascinating about you, and that's something that you can use to your advantage, again, especially if it's like anything to do with job interviews or school interviews or anything like that. Play on your, or use your determination, use your natural ability to prove to people that you can get stuff done, because that's definitely an asset. In terms of romantic first impression, I can sense that people know when they first meet you romantically that you know what you want and you won't settle for anything less. We have the Artemis card here. Remember I told you she's very independent goddess. She didn't have no man, she didn't need no man, she took them when she wanted it. And then she was like, you know, I'm done with you, I'll move on, I'll call you back when I want you back. She was not married, she was doing her thing. And so for romantic relationships, I sense that that's the first impression you give off as well. My pile number 3, very independent, very determined, you know what you want, you're not going to be bothering with, you know, you're just not going to settle for anything less than you deserve, because you know what you want, you know what you don't want, you know what you're worthy of, you know what you deserve. And so you're just a badass person, my pile number 3. You're not going to take any crap, you're not going to settle for anything less, and people can definitely feel that. They can feel your determination, they can feel your self-love, and they can feel that you get what you see is what you get. You stand out, you're different, you're unapologetically you, and yeah, that's it. Unapologetically you, I think, definitely summarizes the first impression that you give off, my pile number 3. So this is what I'm seeing for you today. I really hope you enjoyed this fun, light-hearted reading. If you did, don't hesitate to leave my video a thumbs up. It really helps my channel to grow, and it's a nice exchange of energy. And if you're not yet part of the Waves of Your Soul family, then I invite you to click on the subscribe button, hit the bell and all of that good stuff, because I post regular pick a card readings, tarot and oracle related videos, and I upload every single week, so it will be great to have you. And until my next video, as per usual, I am sending you lots and lots of good vibes, and keep navigating the waves of your soul. Bye! Okay, my pile number 4, welcome to your reading. So if you chose pile number 4 or the Gallena crystal right here, then this is gonna be the reading for you. As I mentioned in the introduction of my video, today we're gonna be doing a reading all about the first impression that you give people. So whether that's conscious or unconscious, when you meet people for the first time, what is the first impression they get of you? We're gonna be looking at your online persona, your in real life persona. We're gonna be doing pulling tarot cards to get intuitive readings on the go. But first, I've got some oracle cards that I've pulled earlier that I have not yet seen, and the first 2 cards are going to represent the conscious impression you make. So those 2 cards are representing kind of like, they shouldn't be too much of a surprise, because they kind of represent the image that you have been nurturing anyway, that you project into the society, the image that you're kind of conscious that you're projecting that vibe, that energy, that image to the world. So this one shouldn't be too much of a surprise, although we'll see. And later on we're going to be diving into the unconscious first impression you make. But first we have a moon card here, and I have a Greek god or goddess archetype that I have again not seen yet, that kind of is going to represent the first impression you make. I really like working with Greek gods and goddesses energy. I think they're great archetypes. They can help us understand more about the human psyche, so I really wanted to work with that today. And so let's see who you got. What is the first impression consciously that you make to people when they first meet you? And you have Apollo. Wow, okay, very beautiful. And we also have the Capricorn full moon. Okay, so well, first of all, some of you might be Capricorn, either moon, sun or rising, or you might have strong Capricorn energy in your chart. And we also have the Apollo card right here. So if you don't know who Apollo was in Greek mythology, he is the god of the sun. He was very beautiful. He was the god of the arts, of he just had this very charismatic, beautiful aura, god of the sun. So of course he was very, he shined bright. He was the god of the arts. He invented music. There's just a lot here of being very connected to aesthetic. This is also giving me Libra vibe, I don't know why. And he definitely has this idea of being very charismatic, being very beautiful, shining bright, being interested in the arts, being very creative, very imaginative. So that already tells me that for my pile number 4, the first impression consciously that you give out to the world is of someone who's very creative, who's very sensitive, but also very beautiful. Like, you might not realize, but people are definitely attracted by your beauty, physical or internal. You have this strong quality that makes people feel very attracted to you. Apollo was definitely a very unique god, that in the sense that he was said to be the most beautiful god, and a lot of men or women fell in love with him because of that. But yet he wasn't, some vain, because he did take care of the sun. He was very interested in the art, so he wasn't just a pretty face, you know what I mean? He had a lot of depth about him, and I feel like that's the same for you, and that's something that people notice. People are attracted to you because you shine very brightly, you have an inner beauty. As well as with this Capricorn, people are also very impressed by your determination, my pile number 4, so they can straight away see that you are quietly confident in who you are. You're not cocky, you're not pretending to be someone you're not. Even though you're very beautiful inside and out, there's a sense here that it's still humble, that you're not gonna be like overly cocky, you're not gonna be overly extroverted. I don't know why I get a bit of introverted. Despite the Apollo card, I get a bit of an introverted vibe from my pile number 4, that you might have a little bit of shyness that people pick up on, but people want to get to know you. They are intrigued because you shine differently and because you show this sensitive, creative, imaginative side. So very interesting combo right here. So let's pull some tarot cards now to get a little bit more information about, for my pile number 4, first impression that you consciously make to the world. When people first meet you, this is the first thing they notice. Oh yeah, see, very sensitive soul, very connected to the heart chakra, not very guarded. You're not giving off an impression of someone who's distant, cold, or you're very warm. Of course, we have Apollo as the god of the sun, so warm, as well as the Queen of Cups right here is definitely someone who's in tune with their emotion, who's very intuitive, who's very sensitive in a good way. I keep saying sensitive, but it's not a bad thing, right? It means that you're in tune with your emotions and you're in tune with other people's emotions, and people can sense that. You're the opposite of a cold, very cold and very like distant and all of those things. With you, people feel like you are quiet, but it doesn't necessarily mean shy. It just means that you are taking your time to assess what people, to kind of, feel what's going on, because you're very empathetic, you're very intuitive, but also you're very caring and kind and compassionate. I can get this strong sense from you that the first impression that people get when they first meet you is that not only you have this kind of inner beauty that shines bright, this quiet, humble determination, but also this very much kindness, compassion, empathy that people can feel. Like, people, when they're around you, when they meet you for the first time, they don't feel like you're gonna be judging them, you're gonna be like gossiping or being very like, a bit bitchy or none of those things. It's like the total opposite. Like, they feel like they can let their guard down, they feel like they can be themselves. It's like, because they know that you're gonna be welcoming them and accepting them just as they are, which is a great asset to have. Let's see, we also have the Queen of Wands, so more fire. Okay, this is very interesting, and this is Mulan if you haven't recognized her. So for me, this goes back to this quiet determination, is that when people first meet you, they also notice your drive. You're a warrior, my pile number 4, but you're not a warrior where it's like aggressive. It's inner quiet strength. For me, the vibe I get from you is definitely reminding me of the tarot card, so the strength card in tarot, which is all about quiet inner strength. Not being totally aggressive, not being very rash or any of those things, but just the ability to persevere. You might have gone through quite a lot in your life, my pile number 4, and so people can sense that you have the ability to get through anything, and that you have, like I said, this inner warrior is very present in you, and people can notice it when they first meet you. Not in a way that is defending or, like I said, aggressive or competitive or any of those things, but actually in a way where you know what you want and you won't settle for anything less. It's very interesting energy. Okay, we're gonna be checking out now the unconscious impression that you make. So now we know a little bit more about the conscious first impression that you gave, that, like I said, might be something that you're quite aware of. People might have told you that, they feel that you're very easily approachable, that they feel like they can be themselves around you, you feel like people warm to you easily, they get naturally attracted to you, but all of those things might not be huge surprises to you because that might be the image that you're trying to project anyway. But now we're going to be looking at the unconscious impression that you give, and so that's where, of course, it's unconscious, so it might be something you're not as aware of. And let's check those two cards first, and then we're going to be pulling some tarot cards. So I have not looked at them yet, but we have Underworld and Separate. So unconsciously, the first impression you give is that people might put you a little bit on a pedestal, my pile number 4. They might feel like you stand out from the crowd a little bit, and that's not something that you might be realizing. Maybe you feel like you're part of a group, maybe you feel like, you fit in and all of those things, but unconsciously the first impression that you give to people is someone who doesn't quite fit in. And that's a good thing, it's good to be different, it's good to shine differently. With the Underworld card, it's definitely the idea of, we have a snake here, and snake sheds their skin, so there's a sense here of being, I get a sense of depth and also of being willing to go below the surface. So I can sense that you're not very superficial, my pile number 4, and people notice that straight away, that despite the fact that you have that inner beauty and all of the things that we talked about, there's still an idea here that you are not vain, and that you like to go below the surface. When you meet someone, you straight away like to ask the questions that are more personal, more emotional, more deep. You like to connect to people on a deep way, and people like to connect with you on that way as well. And so in order for you to find your soul tribe, to find people on the same wavelengths, you need to find people who are also willing to go a little bit deeper. And so sometimes when you meet very superficial people who just like to talk about the weather, or what the newspaper had to say the day before, then sometimes you might feel like you don't quite connect, that there's just this kind of clash here, that you just don't quite fit in, and that might be getting in the way of your relationship sometimes. But that's just because some people just can't quite get the level of depth that you come with, and that's nothing for you to worry about, because there will be people that when they first meet you, they straight away understand that with you there's a lot below. I get a bit of an old soul vibe as well with you. I can sense that some of you are interested in things that are very unusual. Maybe you're interested in historical things, older things. I don't know why this is coming through, this particular message, but some of you might be really into history, historical things, historical subjects, or very creative arts and things like that are a little bit more intellectual, or just more different, as well as some of you might be really into psychology, into open to talk about emotions. I get strong Scorpio vibe with this particular message, so some of you might be Scorpios and just willing to talk more. When you first meet people, you're not one to potentially, or at least that's the impression that they get, that you're not gonna be the one to just stick to, like I said, superficial chit chat, and people straight away feel like you're just you're not superficial, you have a lot of depth, you have a lot of layers, and you're gonna go below the surface, you're gonna dig deep, you're gonna go straight into the human psyche, straight into getting to know someone on a deeper level. And that might throw some people off. Not everyone is gonna like that, but you know what, that's their problem, not yours. You just do your thing, and the right people will be attracted to you anyway. So okay, let's pull some tarot cards and see what comes up about the unconscious first impression you make. See, we have the Ten of Wands. The fact that you're interested, for some of you, in more deeper subjects might sometimes stand in the way of you having the relationships you want. Especially, imagine you're going at a party, everyone is talking about, I don't know, the latest TikTok trend or the latest TikTok challenge, and all you want to talk about is like the latest book you've read, or you want to talk about Norse mythology, or whatever it is. There's just a bit of a dichotomy here, right? And so sometimes that might make you feel a little bit burdened, my pile number 4, because you feel like you don't quite connect with every single person you meet. But again, it's okay to stand out from the crowd. It's okay to keep your sensitive side. It's okay to keep your caring side. Not everyone is going to get it as well. There might be a bit of a fear of judgment here for some of you because you are more sensitive, or you're more you're more willing to show your vulnerability. You're more willing to show your emotions than others, and so you're a bit, sometimes I can sense some of you are concerned to be judged. But you know what? We have a polo card here saying you shine bright just as you are. You're a perfect being. You're beautiful inside and out, and you do you, boo, right? Like, seriously. You can't control how people think of you. You can only control your reaction to things and how you do things and how you behave in the world. So that's definitely coming through. Let's see what else we can get for the unconscious impression that you make onto the world when people first meet you, whether that's your colleagues or new friends or anything like that. We have the Four of Pentacles. We have this, I don't know the name in English. In French we call him Picsou, but I don't know what the name of this little character is in English. So for some of you, unconsciously, the first impression you give is of someone who might be quite connected to the material world and quite proud of their material belongings. Deep down, you might not really care about your finances, you might not really care about your house, you might not really care about your belongings, but when people first meet you, they might wrongly judge you as someone who does put a little bit too much of importance on the material world, someone who might be a little bit too into money, or too into their belongings, or too much into their material, you know. And again, that could be totally wrong. However, I do sense that you're very generous, my pile number 4. So this is the first impression that is not quite true. I can sense that a lot of you are very generous, and once people get to know you, they realize that you're not at all this person that is like, you know, gonna be very close to money or anything like that. But potentially this is something that people wrongly picked on, maybe because you have very much refined taste. Remember, I talked about the arts, I talked about history, I talked about all of those things that some of you might be interested in. Because you're interested in the refined arts, this is the word I was looking for earlier. You feel very refined, my pile number 4. You feel very gracious. You feel very like luminous, refined, and gracious. And so sometimes people might get the wrong impression that you're a bit too, you know, prim and proper, a bit too posh or something like that, whereas actually it's not really who you are at all. You're very sensitive, you're very caring, you have a near warrior like energy, so that's something to be aware of. But you know, people definitely, once they get to know you, they change their mind anyway. So now we're gonna be pulling one more card. And we have the King of Swords. See this huge brain? This is saying, again, this idea of you being very intelligent, and you people picking up straight away on you having very intellectual centers of interest, or just centers of interest that are different. With you have very deep conversations, and conversations that are about subjects that might make other people feel out of line, because they feel like you're a lot more intelligent, you shine a lot brighter, and also that you're a lot more refined. I keep getting this idea of you being very refined, have this kind of grace about you, and that definitely makes you stand out. It will attract the right people to you, but people do notice your mind, people do notice your intelligence. To wrap up today's reading, we're going to be pulling 2 cards. The first one is going to be representing of the first impression you make online. Remember, in the beginning of the video I said that I was inspired to do this particular reading from watching The Circle, which is a reality TV show where people can pretend to be someone they're not, using like online profile, etc. And so I thought it'd be interesting to explore what the first impression that people get online versus the first impression that people get offline. So we're going to be looking at what is the first impression that people get when they're checking out your online profiles, your LinkedIn, your Facebook, your Instagram, your social media, etc. If there's anything that kind of like, it might be true to who you are, it might be completely a surprise, but when people check your online persona for the first time, when they meet your online persona, okay, they sense that you're someone very calm, the sense that you're someone who'd like, potentially a lot of you are not very active on social media actually, because with this rest card it could be like you're not super connected, you're not super into social media, you're not super into updating your status every 5 minutes. So that might be that something that people notice, and that's, you know, very, again, I'm getting strong Scorpio energy coming back, because I feel like you like to go below the surface. So that kind of confirms this message here for online. And let's see for offline, if there's any last first impression we get when people first meet you in real life. And we have peace. Beautiful. So remember I said earlier, people do feel like because you're not a mean person, you don't judge people. People feel at peace with you, feel at ease with you, because they suddenly, straight away from your aura, feel like you're not gonna be bitchy, you're not gonna be judgmental, you're not standoffish, you're not cold at all. Like I was saying, you're the opposite of cold. So that's something that makes people feel at peace, that makes people feel comfortable, and something that you can really cherish. Again, might not be aware of that, but it's definitely a huge asset, my pile number 4. Okay, this is all I'm seeing for you, my pile number 4. I really hope you enjoyed this fun light-hearted reading. If you did, don't hesitate to leave my video a thumbs up. It really helps my channel to grow. It's a nice exchange of energy. And if you're not yet part of the Waves of Your Soul community, then I invite you to hit that subscribe button, because I post regular tarot and oracle readings as well as tarot and oracle related videos. And until my next video, as per usual, I am sending you lots and lots of good vibes, and keep navigating the waves of your soul. Bye!